A Habs insider speaks out on how the Montreal Canadiens and Kent Hughes could go after a big-name free agent in 2024 or 2025. We'll be discussing those crazy possibilities. Plus, Laval defenseman Jayden Struble, Habs prospect, finally gets called up for this West Coast road trip. Plus, Coach Marty ran the team through a tough practice today after their brutal game against Boston. So stick around for all of that on this episode of Habs Digest. Let's jump straight into this, Jesse. And Marty is starting to show a bit of a side that we haven't seen a ton from him. You know, he's usually the guy with the great quotes. He's fairly stern, but he's kind, and he's kind of given these positive quotes. But oh boy, today, apparently 15 minutes into their drill, San Luis stopped it because it wasn't being executed to satisfaction, raised his voice, demanded an adjustment. Then 10 minutes later, they did one-on-one battles, which they rarely do. Then it ended with wind sprints, the length of the ice, message sent, message received. And even Suzuki was like, yeah, on Saturday we didn't play good, no denying that. There's different terms you can use for soft. We definitely played soft against a team that plays hard. It was unacceptable. So the players kind of understand, even Monahan, Matheson saying, hey, we respect Coach Marty a ton, kind of needed him to do this. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see this aspect of Coach Marty, the one who's a bit harder on the players than we're used to. I kind of like it.
That's it. And it just shows where we're at. That's like we're still a rebuilding team, but we're becoming more accountable now, which is really nice. And what I've liked about Marty's approach, kind of no nonsense approach, a lot of ways to practice so far this year for the large part, is it's been very simple. It's like, okay, this is what we need to do better. You know, like let's say like the other day they weren't shooting enough during the game. So it's like, okay, let's have a shooting practice. Okay, you have a soft game. Let's have a hard practice. We're really, you know, with our practices, we're taking what we need to do better and really focusing on just exactly that. And I think, you know, what's great for Nick Suzuki, our captain, is taking ownership, you know, and accountability of this, because you can learn from this. Because, I mean, even Martin St. Louis in his press conference earlier today, he said it's like, yeah, for sure, these types of games, you know, like we had against Boston the other day, it's not fun. But these are the type of games that you can learn from. We're rebuilding, but we're playing against one of the best teams in the league. You can learn how to win sometimes from these type of games.
Yeah, and he's really taken like pretty much everything. He's taken elements from everywhere to try and incorporate them into practice. He kind of summoned a bit of his former coach, John Tortorella, in today's practice. It seemed like maybe not as hard as that, but you're very right? Marty is the kind of guy that sees the weaknesses of the team and he sees the strengths of others and tries to use those strategies for his own team. And it just feels like he always has the exact right thing to say, exact right thing to do in a situation like this. So it's really cool to see this side of Marty that we don't usually get to see. And hey, the guys paid for. Hopefully they come out Wednesday against Anaheim, another young team with you know, a mind ready for vengeance for that game Saturday. But to keep on the theme of being tough, I really like this, and this was a bit unexpected. Jayden Struble got called up. Jayden Struble has been Laval's probably best defenseman this year, as Trudeau has kind of fallen off a bit, and Orlinder hasn't really done a whole lot. Mailloux is solid offensively, but still not there defensively. But Struble, he finally got called up because Raphael Harvey-Pinard's on the IR, and another update, Harvey-Pinard and Xhekaj will not be traveling with the team on this 3-game West Coast road trip, and also it seems like Jordan Harris might not be playing for a game or two. So Jesse, it's time for Jayden Struble. I mean, I was shocked by this when I saw this morning, but I was so excited. What do you think Jayden Struble can bring to the Habs lineup?
A lot of physicality, but surprisingly enough, in Laval, he's been putting up points.
Yeah.
He can bring some offensive part of his game, which I didn't see so much as being part of his repertoire, but apparently it is, you know. But of course, like that last game against the Boston Bruins, it really showed us, Josh, how important Arber, Xhekaj is for this team. It's almost a night and day difference. And for sure that was, you know, accentuated even more in the fact that we were playing against the Boston Bruins. But for me, again, it's such like a smart approach, again, from Kent Hughes and Martin St. Louis. It's like, okay, we're missing a little bit of that physicality with Xhekaj being out. Let's bring what we need into the lineup. For me, it's a great call. And also what's great about this, like when we have so many great prospects coming up, you know, this game is going to serve such a great function of getting his team to play, like see where he's at and what we have right now in this prospect.
Yeah, it's like what a test. Kind of just, all right, guess what? You're coming to the West Coast with us. We got Anaheim, we got San Jose, we got LA, right? And there's a back-to-back this weekend as well. So, I mean, depending on the injury situation now with Harris and Xhekaj maybe both out, you might even see Struble in that first game against Anaheim, but at the very least, you got to think he's going to get at least one of the two games back-to-back Friday and Saturday. I think 3:30 and then 4 Eastern those 2 days. One against San Jose, one against LA. So you're going to see Struble for sure, but you're very right, Jesse. That kind of physical presence by Arber Xhekaj is sorely missed, but Struble's a guy who can come in and do that, and we'll see if he can hold his own offensively as well, because he's a guy that we've kept an eye on, and we've been waiting to say, let's see when he gets his chance, and he's just kept surprising people, dominated in college, dominated in the AHL, and now he's really getting his shot at the top level. But let's transition a bit. We talked a bit about the future, but speaking of the future, Eric Engels did a little bit of a mailbag, taking some questions from Twitter, and there's a lot of questions coming in about what the Habs' plans might be in free agency this offseason, with the likes of someone like William Nylander, Elias Lindholm, and even Elias Pettersson available. But he kind of said, when it comes to Nylander and Lindholm, he's not sure if signing that kind of player will be the way to go, especially considering the assets the Habs have and can get. We have 29 picks, 17 of them in the top 4 rounds over just the next 3 drafts, right? They have one of the deepest prospect pools in the NHL. They have a ton of left shot defensemen. And think about what else can get added if you trade Monahan, Pearson, and Savard. And then he goes on to say that if they were to add any one of these 3 players, the third being Thomas Hertl, in a trade, he said, because these guys are all about 30, right? Would they really affect the team that early? He said, why wouldn't Kent Hughes just wait, not do this offseason, wait until 2025. You make room for Hudson, Reinbacher, Mailloux, Beck, Waugh, and you use some of this other draft capital and prospects to, first of all, instead of going for a free agency splash, trade for an elite player, because a lot of times free agents are a bit older. And he said, why not just wait a year? Wait until 2025. Wait till these guys come up, until your situation's a bit more clear. And it kind of makes sense to me, Jesse. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this potential Kent Hughes plan?
The fluid situation, of course, it really depends on the market and what's available. I think we definitely need that top 6. Let's face it, top line, offensive talent. That's what we really need. And I'm not really, too partial to whether it's through free agency, whether it's through a trade. We just need this type of player. But as for kind of waiting until 2025, that depends. I'm definitely open to waiting for players like Leon Draisaitl, just with the Oilers doing so bad, that's the only reason that this just has any sort of chance of happening whatsoever. But at the same time, it's there's a lot of parity in this league. I get where he's coming from. That's some of these players that it's where they are in terms of age-wise and where we are in a rebuild. But you have to feel a couple of the players they listed, probably going to be having a good 3 to 5 years. And, you got to feel we're going to probably get into that contention window. And while I think it's sometimes good to wait, I think that chemistry sometimes is something that takes a while to build. So I don't mind if I don't think we have to wait till we're Stanley Cup contenders to add this type of player. I think we just need to be a playoff type of team. We're really changing our culture and really bringing this type of player on. I think that's, just the most important thing for us, and really getting that chemistry so that when we are ready to compete for that Stanley Cup, that we've developed that, which takes some time. So I feel, in my opinion, that almost puts us in a better position. I almost feel we're not as far away as it would seem, and we still need to build on that.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually, because chemistry doesn't just come overnight. You can bring in a free agent. Sometimes it pays incredible dividends, or maybe just bring in a new face. Look at the Florida-Calgary trade. Calgary brings in Huberdeau, and they extend him, and they fall off the face of the earth for now. Really unfortunate, because I like Jonathan Huberdeau. But then you got Florida, and you got Matthew Tkachuk, who comes in, and he's like a Hart Trophy, he's leveled guy. He's just insane, right? So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you're very right. The chemistry gets built over time, and that championship culture gets built over time. So this offseason, there's a restricted free agent like Elias Pettersson. He's probably going to get extended by Vancouver. They're going crazy. But Vancouver has another young guy, Filip Hronek, right D, has 18 points in 18 games. You got guys like Casey Middlestat. Then, of course, you got guys like Nylander and Lindholm and a few other guys. But, at the end of the day, the Habs are going to have money. They're going to have flexibility. And whether we can move Price's contract is still yet to be seen. So let me propose this to you. Let's say the Habs front office, also Jeff Gorton, mind you, has said, I don't really like signing these free agents because a lot of the time those contracts become bad deals by the end of them. He's kind of said this and things. If the Habs this offseason, let's say we get some nice assets for trading away Monahan, Savard, Pearson, whatever, and then we're heading into the offseason, and we can make a trade for a very good player, another top 6 guy. Do you just go in and then get a free agent as well if it can get basically guarantee you, or at least ideally put you in a playoff position for next year? Or are you maybe more on the side of let's just see how the prospects do first before we kind of block ahead of them?
it's getting like absolutely we do a trade, and almost talking about this, it seems like the more likely situation. Jeff Gordon has said sometimes paying that premium in free agency. We know how good Kent Hughes is with trades. Seems like he would be kind of more inclined to do that, but we have right now, we have the prospects and we have the picks. It's kind of like a perfect storm. Of course, the Carey Price is the other elephant in the room when it comes to that, but we're talking about 17 picks in the next 3 rounds, and that's just in the top 4 rounds.
That's crazy.
Like, this is some serious draft capital. It's like, and we have so many prospects, so we're getting ourselves into a position where it's like, we need to trade that because we're just basically going to lose these players for nothing if we're not doing something with them. So the time to kind of packaging it and then to really get, that golden goose, as a result, I think would be the ideal maneuver.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, you always see these things like in the NBA, it happens more than the NHL where a player's like, I'm done, I want to trade. And if that happens to a superstar player, what team is going to be able to offer more than the Montreal Canadiens at this point? Like, there are some teams with good draft capital, but with the Habs' just elite prospect pool compared to the rest of the NHL, plus the crazy draft capital they have, teams are going to have a tough time beating them. So, maybe it's just about patience, waiting for that moment, waiting to strike, but things seem to be adding up. Another nice draft pick this year, maybe some more assets at the deadline. It seems like something huge could be stewing for the future. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're past 8,600 subs. We're looking towards 9,000. We're getting very, very close every day. And if you're still watching now and you haven't hit subscribe, do it because we have daily content just like this every single day. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.